Hello everybody, and welcome to Theology 101. Today we are going to look at the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is the 23rd book of the Old Testament. The Hebrew Bible has 3 sections: the Law, Prophets, and Writings. The Law contains the first 5 books of the Old Testament. The Prophets is made up of 8 books divided into the former prophets and the latter prophets. The latter prophets include Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the 12 minor prophets. The writings consist of religious poetry and wisdom literature, and so Isaiah is part of the latter prophet section of the Old Testament. Across the years, Isaiah has come to be known as the Prince of the Prophets. A part of the reason for this title is that the prophet may have been part of the royal family. While this is debated, we do see that he had access to different kings. But the ultimate reason why Isaiah is considered the Prince of the Prophets is because of the content of this book. The book of Isaiah functions like a miniature Bible. Like the Bible, the book has 2 major divisions, and like the Bible, the main theme of the first part is judgment, while the theme of the second part is hope. This book also gives a comprehensive view of God. God is a judge who destroys rebellious people, but also a compassionate redeemer. And these 2 images of God are interweaved together throughout this book. Now, this book is addressed to different audiences and settings. The first part of Isaiah addresses people during his time from 740 to 700 BC. However, Isaiah chapters 40 to 55 seems to address the exiles in Babylon between 585 to 540 BC. Finally, Isaiah chapters 56 to 66 seems to reflect on the condition in Judah after the exiles returned to Jerusalem in 539 BC. This is one of the reasons why some scholars believe that this book is written by multiple authors. However, the book seems to make every effort to identify only one author, namely Isaiah. So if we assume that Isaiah is the only author of this book, why would he have written to future generations as well as his own? Let me give you the historical backdrop to this book to help you understand how Isaiah can be speaking to several generations in this book. In Isaiah chapter 6 to 39, Isaiah is given a sweeping vision of God's sovereignty over the nations of the world. This truth is demonstrated in the deliverance of Jerusalem from Sennacherib, described in Isaiah chapter 37, verses 36 to 38. Then Isaiah receives a vision of a future when Judah will not trust God when facing the Babylonians. The Babylonians would destroy Jerusalem and remove Judah from their land. Then Isaiah sees that some will return from Babylonian exile to Jerusalem, although the city will be in ruins. Judah will have no king, no army, and no independence. Previously, Judah experienced outright danger from their political enemies, but after the Babylonian exile, they will experience a different type of danger: religious syncretism, meaning that they will mix God with idols. So God probably showed Isaiah this future reality to remind his people that Yahweh is still sovereign over the nations and their gods, even if their circumstances will look very different in the future. If Isaiah ended at chapter 39, then the readers would have an incomplete picture of God. They will not know of God's sovereign power, but also of his redeeming power to save and restore his people even after the Babylonian exile. With this backdrop in mind, let me go over a few themes of this book. The first theme is that of judgment and hope. The interchange between these 2 themes appears in Isaiah chapter 1, where judgment is pronounced on the wickedness of Judah, which transitions to a promise of restoration if Judah repents from their sin. Isaiah chapter 1, verses 21 to 24 details the corruption of the leaders in Judah and their future judgment, followed by the purpose of their destruction, which is to lead to purification. So we see the pattern of judgment and hope throughout Isaiah chapters 1 through 5. Isaiah 1 speaks about judgment, but Isaiah chapter 2 verses 1 through 5 gives a promise of hope. Then Isaiah chapter 2 verse 6 to chapter 4 talks about judgment, while Isaiah chapter 4 verses 2 to 6 gives a promise of hope. This pattern is repeated throughout, with Isaiah chapter 7 through 39 emphasizing judgment, while the emphasis of Isaiah chapters 40 through 66 is on hope. Now, what is the point of this back and forth between judgment and hope? It seems that the message is that hope for Judah can only occur through their judgment. In other words, if Judah truly turns from their sin, then judgment could have been avoided. However, as Isaiah reveals, this is unlikely. Therefore, if there is any hope for Judah to become pure so that the nations may be blessed through them, it will only happen after they are judged. The second theme is that of servanthood and kingdom. The relationship between servanthood and kingdom is seen primarily in the servant king described in Isaiah chapters 7 through 12. These chapters deal with the Assyrian crisis of 735 BC. Judah is threatened by them, and Isaiah describes visions of oppression and domination coming from the Assyrian. So what does Judah need? A king who will protect them. But the vision Isaiah gives is a king who is a child. Isaiah describes a child king who will be wise, righteous, and who will bring a kingdom of peace. So God's solution to the oppression Judah experiences from Assyria is through a king who is later called a servant to show that this king will respond to oppression with love. This same king is described in Isaiah chapters 40 to 55. In Isaiah chapter 42 verse 1 and 49 verse 6, this king is described as a servant of the Lord. This servant will bring justice and salvation to the nations. He will become the servant of both Israel and the nations by fulfilling the role that Israel failed to fulfill, to be a light to the nations. This servant will be the one who restores Israel as a nation so that Israel can transform from sinful Israel to servant Israel. This servant king will provide a way of restoration for Israel and salvation to the nations through his atoning death. The final theme in Isaiah is the topic of nations. The purpose of Israel's election was for the nations. The nations were to learn the intentions and ways of Yahweh by observing Israel. We see a picture of the nations streaming to Jerusalem to worship Yahweh in the Messiah's kingdom. Then in Isaiah 66, the final chapter, we see a picture of the Messianic kingdom. The Messianic king will signal the nations by sending out survivors within Israel from Jerusalem to the nations. The nations will respond by bringing back the scattered Israelites, called sons and daughters, back to Jerusalem. And so we end with the picture of Israel and Gentile nations living in harmony in the Messiah's kingdom centered around Jerusalem. Thus, we see that God's promise to Abraham that his descendants will bless the nations is finally fulfilled with the servant king who will reign from Jerusalem. Thank you to today's sponsor, On Reverence. They offer a free digital worship music app called Maskill. If you want to find out more, I'll leave some links below in the description box. If you missed the last video about the book of the Song of Songs, I'll leave a link here for you to watch. And until next time, see you.